What time is it? 6:09 in the morning.
Good morning, everyone. How's it going? I'm here with my cousin Joey. If some of you have met him before, you'll know he's a smart guy and enjoys to read and stuff. And so recently, we got into the book Pilgrim's Progress and been discussing um, just the different truths that are brought out in such a unique way. And I've really been wanting to discuss Pilgrim's Progress and talk about it in a more public way. And so I'm going to be doing that with Facebook and YouTube um, here in the mornings. I'd like to do this every weekday morning, but we'll see how much we get into it. So we actually have the full. Um, let's see if this will focus. There we go. So we actually have the full book um, of Pilgrim's Progress. There's actually a few other books in this actual print edition that we may get to. But anyways, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna we were planning on doing this anyways without going live, without getting on the internet. But since I had the setup and I wanted to bring more people into the conversation, um, we decided just to go live. So, Joe, you read the preface, the first chapter,
Yeah.
and you've read a lot of books. Before we get into this, what would you say is just up front is different about this book than maybe all the other books or many of the other books you've read?
I don't know. Yeah, I was reading that his style of writing when he wrote this book was actually like the first. Like in the English language, anyways, the novel wasn't really the format the novel was written in wasn't really a thing, and so Shakespeare had died like 16 years before him, I think, before he was born, and so he had things like that to go off of. But his style of writing, I think, was pretty new for at least the time that he wrote it in. And
Oh, that's
but yeah, I mean,
interesting.
it's beautiful. I mean, they say he was uneducated. He wrote it in prison, so the fact that I mean, he was obviously a well-read man himself to be able to write the way he did. Yeah, so it's
And
amazing.
it's interesting fact about this book is that it's the second most read book in history. So there's really no other book outside of the Bible that has the attention that this book has had throughout the ages since this was written. And so that's very interesting. So this book starts off very interestingly. It starts off with an apology. Uh, as Joey mentioned, this style of writing, this novel style that uh, is common today. With in novels is a whole series of or category of writing. It really hadn't been around at this time, and so John Bunyan takes precaution to preface his writing with an apology. I say an apology, but more of like a what would you call it? He calls it the author's apology for his book. But what he's really trying to do is
Making a case for it.
making a case. Yeah, like, hey, this is why I am writing this way. Um, and apparently he was just trying to, you know, kind of defeat some of those objections before he even got too far into it. That people were going to say, oh, this is sacrilegious. Um, this is not how you treat the gospel. The truth has to be told a certain way. It has to be spoken from a pulpit. It has to be spoken in this certain way. And John Bunyan gives his reasons in this not necessarily a preface, but in this chapter before the chapter of why and how he's going to give the truth. Feel free anytime to comment. Love to see some comments here, some insight. We are going to go through this very slowly and very thoughtfully. There's a lot of uh, notes and references that I've never really seen or heard in an audio version. And so I love listening to the audio version of this, but like I said, there's a lot of additional stuff in the actual written book that I think gets missed a lot. Anyways, let's get into this. And We'll start with the first paragraph here. He writes, "When at the first I took my pen in hand, thus for to write, I did not understand that I at all should make a little book in such a mode. Nay, I had undertook to make another, which when almost done, before I was aware, I this begun."
Didn't even intend to write the
He didn't
second most famous book in the
even
world.
intend to write this. It's really interesting. It's not easy to read quickly, I'll say that. And thus it was, I writing of the way and race of saints in this our gospel day, fell suddenly into an allegory about their journey and the way to glory. In more than 20 things which I set down, this done, I 20 more had in my crown, and they again began to multiply like sparks that from the coals of fire do fly. Nay, then, thought I, if that you breed so fast, I'll put you by yourselves, lest you at last should prove ad infinitum, and eat out the book that I already am about. I need to read this in a deeper British accent. I might be able to get through it a little bit easier. To break that down, he's basically saying he started some ideas came into his head of how to write this in an allegory sense, and he says when I wrote 20 down, 20 more were in my crown, in his head, and they just those sparks began to fly. And ad infinitum, what does that mean?
Without end.
Without end.
Yeah.
It's interesting. He threw in some Latin in there. Well, so I did, but yet I did not think to show to all the world my pen and ink in such a mode. I only thought to make I knew not what, nor did I undertake thereby to please my neighbor. No, not I. I did it mine own self to gratify. I'll say this this discussion that we're having is basically for us. I'd agree with um, his perspective here, in that this conversation is really
Yeah.
for for yourself.
I think it was C.S. Lewis that said, if you wanted to understand something, he'd write it down. And so he's like, if you write, it should be for your own sake.
Hmm. It's a good. It's good.
Yeah.
Neither did I but vacant season spend in this my scribble, nor do I intend but to divert myself in doing this from worser thoughts which make me do amiss. Thus I set pen to paper with delight, and quickly had my thoughts in black and white. For having now my method by the end, still as I pulled it came, and so I penned it down, until at last it came to be, for length and breadth the bigness which you see. Well, when I had thus put my ends together, I showed them others that I might see whether they would condemn them or justify. And some said, "Let them live." Some, "Let them die." Some said, "John, print it." Others said, "Not so." Some said, "It might do good." Others said, "No." What's incredible is he's not just writing, he's writing poetically.
Yeah.
He's giving his story in a poetic manner here. I'm going to let you read from that point, Joey.
Uh, some said it might do good, others said no. Now was I in a strait and did not see, which was the best thing to be done by me. At last I thought, since you are thus divided, I print it will, and so the case decided. For thought I, some I see would have it done, though others in that channel did not run, to prove then who advised for the best. Thus I thought fit to put it to the test. I further thought, if now I did deny those that would have it thus to gratify, I did not know but hinder them I might of that which would then to them be great delight. For those which were not in its coming forth, I said to them, offend you I am loath. Yet since your brethren pleased with it be, forbear to judge till you do further see. If that thou wilt not read, but let it alone, some leave the meat, some love to pick the bone. Yea, that I might them better moderate, I did too with them thus expostulate.
What does expostulate mean?
Expostulate. I don't know. It's a good word.
I know expository.
Probably means to.
Say So he's saying some love the meat, some love to pick the bone. When it comes to teaching and doctrine, which is the same thing, uh, expostulate.
Mm.
Anybody out there know what expostulate means off the top of your head? To express strong disapproval or disagreement. Huh, not what I expected.
Yeah, neither did I.
Yea, that I might them better moderate, I did too with them thus expostulate. So he's just saying, if you're not going to read this, just don't touch it. Let the people who enjoy it
Yeah.
read it and get the good out of it.
It's funny that he tried showing it to everybody he could to see what they thought of it before,
Yeah, yeah.
and based it off of
And then
that.
he was like, you know what? I'm going to be able to help some. So the people it's not going to help.
Yeah. May I not write in such a style as this, in such a method too, and yet not miss my end, thy good? Why may it not be done? Dark clouds bring water, when the bright bring none. Yea, dark or bright. Sorry, I got distracted. Yea, dark or bright, if they their silver drops, cause to descend the earth by yielding crops. Gives praises to both, and carpeth not at either, but treasures up the fruit they yield together. Yea, so commixes both, that in their fruit none can distinguish this from that they suit. Her well when hungry, but if she be full, she spews out both and makes her blessings null. You see the ways a fisherman doth take to
Wait, I
catch
want to
the
stop
fish.
there.
Yeah.
So he says, may I not write in such a style as this. He says, the dark clouds, they bring water, and light clouds bring water. We don't really care what color the clouds are as long as they rain. And if they don't rain, it really doesn't matter what the um, what color they are and what they look like. I'm trying to really quick define carpeth. It's an archaic word, and trying to find it here. And it's interesting they refer to his first use of this word. Um, it's a third person use of the word carp. Okay. Well, let's see if we can find it. It's nagging, complaining. This was basically uh, the dark clouds bring water when the bright bring none. Dark or bright, if they yield their silver drops, we don't complain about either one.
Yielding crops gives praise to both.
Yeah, the crops don't care.
Yeah.
I'll continue there.
Yeah.
You see the ways the fisherman doth take to catch the fish. What engines doth he make? Behold how he engageth all his wits, also his snares, lines, angles, hooks, nets. Uh, Yet fish there be that neither hook, nor line, nor snare, nor net, nor engine can make thine. They must be groped for and be tickled too. Think of noodling. And or they will not catch whate'er you do. For those of you who are just getting on or just listening, we're going through the book Pilgrim's Progress, and we're reading the unabridged original version. So the English is a little bit, well, it is archaic, albeit it's not lost its meaning. I mean, this was basically, I believe, some of the strongest forms of English. Uh, Back in the day, they used one word, and now we have to use 10 words to describe the word that they were using. Um, but it's funny. He says, you see the way of fishing, and I love fishing. Do you fish?
I used to a lot. Yeah, I haven't done it in quite a while. I always wanted to do noodling.
Yeah, noodling. I don't know if anybody of you have heard of noodling, but basically, you put your hand down in a hole to catch the fish. And the point that John Bunyan is making here is like, you see how a fisherman fishes. I mean, he's got all kinds of ways that he goes for fish. He even apparently some even tickled for some fish, um, and the between the using hook and the string of net, using all kinds of methods that hard pass on noodling for real. I've got a friend who has scars all up and down his arm from putting his fist down in these random cavities in the bottom of murky waters. Yeah, it's a no for me, for sure. But yeah, it takes whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes to catch a fish. I mean, I've seen guys use the car batteries and all kinds of things because it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then he says, after all of those, you do all of that, and you still can't catch some. There's still going to be a fish
Yeah.
out there that you can't catch. So he says how, and he goes on to make another another case here where he says, how does the fowler seek to catch his game? A fowler is just someone who hunts for birds by diverse means, all which one cannot name. His guns, his nets, his lime twigs. You want to look that up? Lime twigs? What is that? Light and bell, he creeps, he goes, he stands. Yea, who can tell all of his postures? Yet there's none of these which will make him the master of what fowls he please. Yea, he must pipe and whistle to catch this. Yea, if he does so, that bird he will miss. If that a pearl may in a toad's head dwell, and may be found too in an oyster shell, if things that promise nothing do contain what better is than gold, who will disdain that have an inkling of it? There to look that they may find it. Now, my little book, devoid of those paintings that that, that may make it with this or what other man to take, is not without those things that do excel, what do in brave but empty notions dwell. It's basically saying, it's so funny because my brother-in-law um, his name is Hunter, interestingly enough, and he he and he uses all kinds of ways to catch. Or I think right now the biggest way, I think that there's only a few legal ways to even go after ducks, and even then you can only get so many. I guess after a while, they
Yeah.
they had. I mean, there's so many different ways to catch birds, and as he says, it's none of them. You can speak against some of them and say some of them are better, some of them are not. But the fact is, if it works, it works, and none of them are going to make you the master of the birds.
Yeah.
And then he says, my book, it's written like a novel, and the same exact style of writing is used in some pretty empty works. He says,
Yeah.
the way I'm writing this is not necessarily
Yeah.
unseen. There's other people who try to write this way, and it's pretty empty.
Yeah.
But if you could find something valuable in it, then don't
Yeah.
hate. He's talking to his haters like, don't hate. You know, if I've got something good here, and it's in whether it's in a toad's head, or I didn't know a pearl's in a toad's head. It's a new
Maybe
one
just
to me.
hate it. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be start
Not
stepping
out of
on
the
some
question.
toads here. See if there's some pearls in their heads. But it doesn't really matter where you find it. If truth, if something valuable is somewhere to be found, then
Yeah.
who's to hate on it? So what does lime twig come out to be?
It's actually pretty interesting. It's a
I'm
twig
gonna shut this door.
covered with bird lime to catch birds. So I looked up what bird lime is, and bird lime is an adhesive used in trapping birds. So I see a picture here, and they got a stick with the birds like feet.
Oh, it's
strapped
a
on it.
common
Yeah.
it's still used to this day.
Yeah, like glue
Huh.
almost on a stick.
So now, if you've never heard of that, bird lime is a way to catch a bird. It's just basically one of those sticky traps, but designed for birds. Interesting.
It's odd. I've never
What
seen
time
that
is it?
before.
We're actually gonna stop there. We're gonna spend about 20 to 30 minutes between 6 and 6:30 every morning if we can, and just go through little segments of this book at a time. It's basically for us. If you enjoy this, great. If you don't, as John Bunyan says, go somewhere else and hate. But this is a live thing. So if you're listening, you're like, oh, I'd love to interject something there. I didn't put it here because I didn't necessarily know how to do it easily, but I'm going to put a link in the comments that you can just click. If you click that link, you'll be able to just pop right in. It won't show up right away when you click the link. I'll get this little notification. I'll be able to see your face, and then I can approve that request and bring you in. That way we can make sure, at this time, I know a lot of us aren't necessarily ready for the day in regards to what we're wearing or whatever. But anyways, thanks for joining us.
Also, keep in mind, if this is a little difficult to read, but this is the apology is the only area that's written in that poetry
Yeah.
form.
The rest of the book is written a bit easier. It's not necessarily easy reading, but it is definitely a little bit easier to read than the portion that we're going through. Thanks for watching. We will see you tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. Take care. God bless. Hope you have a great day. Alrighty.